Hey guys, Scott here. I had another video uploaded today that was far less important. I threw that shit right into the trash. It's on unlisted. I'll upload it tomorrow. But I just watched the community stream for DVD today, and this definitely warranted way more attention than the thing I just uploaded. So we got a lot of massive W's from this community stream that the devs did. So let's just get right into all of them. First up, the play while you wait feature is now being added to 1v4 as well. Not as much of a big deal because 1v4 queue times typically don't get really bad unless it's during a 2v8 period, which means at least during 2v8, I'll actually be able to stream the game now, which thank God. So that's more of a W for me. It probably doesn't affect anyone else in too much of a big way, but that's already a huge W, so I'm very happy about that. Next, and probably the biggest W that I've seen, they are introducing diminishing returns. It's really funny. I just made a video of suggesting this like a week ago. I posted it on Twitter about this too. And this is, I think, obviously because I made a video about it, this is something I very much agree with. So the way that they're doing it is a little bit different, but it still has a lot of similarities with what I want to see. So the original thing that I suggested in terms of diminishing returns was basically like if 4 survivors all bring fast track, that perk is less effective per survivor. Basically, for certain perks, they just can't function in the game if everyone's able to bring them at the exact same value. Therefore, there needs to be some reduction in its power in order to make the perk still good in solo queue, but also not wildly overpowered when it's used grouped up with other people. And I think that would be the best way to do it. Now, they've kind of hinted at that. We're taking baby steps to stuff like that. What they've sort of started talking about is, again, another thing I've talked about too, with the simplifying of builds being a problem. Like, if you just have like 5 haste perks, first of all, you're cheating because you have 5 perks, but if you're stacking all of that stuff, it can make each individual perk seem stronger than it actually is in isolation. So basically what they're trying to do here is bridge the gap between like specialized all healing builds or all gen speed builds or all haste builds or whatever, and making it so those things will not give you as much of a benefit overall. Now, that's a little different from what I was suggesting. So I don't want to like be blamed for that type of thing, but I do agree with them. I do think this is a good thing. Back when the whole haste stacking discussion was a thing, I was very much against haste stacking. I'm still against haste stacking. I'm against anything that pushes levels into extreme amounts, so much so that it like almost breaks the game. I don't like that that's possible. Now, you can make the counter argument there that that means build variety is slightly stifled a bit because, I don't know, you think you're unique and decided to stack 4 healing perks and you can heal a guy in 3 seconds. You're not the first person to do that. That's something a lot of people have tried. Or you've decided to stack all these gen perks and do a gen in 25 seconds. Again, you're not the first person to do this. It's not like your unique build. Lots of people can see when a perk does the same thing and put lots of that perk on. And you're going to have, you know, that scenario just be an extreme version of something that probably should not be in the game. So I think while people might find this a bit stifling to build variety, it's not going to change build variety. It's just going to basically make the extremes just come in a little bit. And I think that's a good thing. For overall balance, that will make perk design a lot easier to fix because we won't have to worry about, well, this perk by itself is just not very good. But if you stack it with this and this and this, suddenly it's completely busted. And they're also addressing killers that are too good with certain things. Like the infamous example, I think, would be like Awakened Awareness with Nerfs. It was basically just nerfed like because of Nerfs existing. So they're finally addressing that. This is, again, something I have really, really wanted them to do for a while. They acknowledge that certain killers are just going to benefit from certain things way more than everybody else. And it's okay to make those effects not as strong on that killer. That's completely fine. If Blight benefits a bit less from X perk or whatever, that's okay. He's still fucking Blight. He'll be just fine until the nerfs. But the whole point is, like, there are massive disparities in balance between the weakest and the strongest. And anything we can do to crunch that together a little bit, it's not like it makes everything the same. It just makes things more fair. And it might be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, but I do think for the health of the game, this is the great first step to getting to that point. I don't think we're going to have that step be a thing for probably even a year. It's going to be a long road to getting there. But I do think this is a step that does need to be taken, and I've reiterated that many, many times in the past. So I am completely with them trying to dip their toes into the whole diminishing return thing, and lesser effects on certain killers, and lesser effects based on, you know, people stacking a bunch of the same thing. I would like to see them expand it into specifically survivor stacking all of the same perk, lessening effects of certain perks, you know, things like fast track, for example. I don't think they should be as, you know, as strong when there's 4 of them in the match, but, you know, like I said, baby steps. They have shown that they're willing to start doing something like this, which is great. The diminishing returns that they are using is typically how most games do it. It's typically like, you know, 100%, then it's halved, then it's halved, then it's halved, then it would be nothing, basically. I don't think there's, like, immunity, like in WoW, on the third stun, you just wouldn't stun somebody, it would just say immune. So that's kind of like what they're doing here. I feel like it doesn't even need to be that harsh. It can probably be a bit less harsh, but look, the whole point is the idea is out there now. They're actually showing that they want to do stuff like this, and I think that's the very key important takeaway here. So as long as we can make it so over time we're addressing the points that need to be addressed, then I think this is going to be a really, really fantastic change. You just got to bear with it for a bit. If you're initially not liking this, just trust the process. Let them cook with it for a little bit and see where it goes. Maybe they'll screw it up, who knows, but I think this is a really good first step that you should be excited about. Next on the list of W's, we have nerfs to some killers that obviously need nerfs. Blight, finally, somehow, after Matrix dodging for 62 years, has actually received tangible, real nerfs. So the first absolutely major one is he has been knocked down to 110. I don't think it's going to affect him very much. Good Blights are going to be just fine because they're still going to use their power to get hits. It's not like they're just M1ing you at loops and stuff like that. They're going to use their power, so it's not really going to affect them very much. Will affect is not so good Blights that kind of just use their power for like zoning and stuff like that and then just try to plainly M1 people. They will actually feel this a lot. But for the most part, I feel like this is a change most people would probably agree on. Blight is basically the fastest killer in the entire game in terms of consistent distance. I know Billy, like, on a stretch is faster and Nurse while blinking is intermittently faster while she's blinking. But on a consistent stretch, Blight overall can traverse areas probably the most in the entire game, maybe like tied with Ghoul. So this, I think, is completely fine. The other major change that they're doing, which I really, really like, is kind of what happens to Ghoul. When you kick a pallet, you lose tokens of your power. This makes it so you can't just zone people. You can't just use your power to just break a pallet, or you can't just kick a pallet and then use your power to catch up and hit them while they're running to the next loop. That is the most boring way to play the killer and to play against the killer. So they're basically incentivizing you to actually do what good Blights do and use your power in loops to hit people. That is where the skill is, and that is where actually going against Blights like that can be pretty fun. Going against a good Blight that's not just zoning you with their power is actually pretty interesting. If they're a master and you're on a bad map, it can feel like pretty much a steamroll, but for the most part, that's way more interesting than just having a Blight just kick a pallet and then use their power to catch back up in between loops. That's just not very interesting. So that is, in my opinion, a completely welcome nerf. He'll still likely be the first or second best killer in the game. I don't really see that changing. If anything, maybe Ghoul might jump up a little bit, trade places, but he's still going to be S to A+ tier, so it's not like they kill Blight. I'm just saying right now, if you think this kills Blight, you need to just get better at Blight. I don't know what to tell you. You're still going to be able to kill people very easily with this killer. It's just a welcome nerf to a killer that's just been noticeably above everything else for just no real reason this long, and I'm honestly happy to see this as a killer. As a quick little addition, Nurse is getting a little tiny nerf. One of her add-ons gives her post-blink lunge an extremely large duration, so you can just kind of miss your blink but then still just kind of lunge and hit people anyway. They're making that significantly worse now, which just basically means nurses will have to have more precision while they're blinking if they were running that add-on. And again, it's not a huge systemic change, but I'll take what we can get here. Honestly, I'm still of the opinion that Blight is stronger than Nurse nowadays, so I think overall this is just good stuff, and we're actually getting a bunch of buffs to weaker killers on top of that as well. So they weren't super clear on what exactly is going to be changed, but Bubba, Doctor, Demogorgon, Dredge, Ghostface, Wesker, Unknown, and Springtrap are all getting buffs in some way. And a lot of this has to do with things involving diminishing returns. They mentioned it sort of in the same topic, but a little too vague to go into what exactly we're going to be getting with these things, but these are all killers that I will happily accept buffs to. Some of them need it a lot more than others. Like, Wesker doesn't need a huge buff. I don't think Springtrap needs a huge buff, but pretty much every other killer on this list needs huge buffs. They are all pretty bad in their own way. Ghostface is pretty bad. Bubba's pretty bad. Demogorgon's pretty bad. Dredge is awful. Unknown is pretty decent, but only if you are literally the top 1% of Unknown players. So I think buffs to all these killers are completely welcome. Again, it's going to remain to be seen what actually we're getting, but I'm just glad to see them even announce something like that, because these are killers that very, very significantly need buffs. So that is all great stuff. A little minor W is they're making progress easier to understand. I don't really care about this stuff. I thought basically their whole argument was that the red line when you have two people repairing a generator at the same time was confusing, because you see red and you think red, bad. Wait, should I not be repairing a generator with somebody? It's repairing slower now. But the whole point is you are both repairing a bit slower, but you're combining your speeds with a small penalty. So the whole point was they found that that might have been confusing to people. So honestly, that accidentally was probably making people play better, because they would see the red and go, oh, red bad, I need to go somewhere else, and then they would split pressure on different gens. So this might unintentionally make people group up and play worse. So anything to make the game better to understand is fine, but it might actually have an unintentional side effect of making the overall survivor, like the casual players, a bit weaker, because they might group up a lot more. So that would be interesting. In a final absolutely massive W, we're finally getting the thing people have been asking for years now. You can finally see your teammates' perks when you're playing the game. Now, you can't see it in the lobby, which I still think is a good idea, because if you could see the perks in the lobby, you might have people just repeatedly dodging over and over again until you get a team that's got all, like, you know, super meta perks. You see one guy with an off meta perk, you're just going to keep dodging over and over again. I think it would just be annoying. I think you should be, you know, you should have to play with the people that you're playing with, but you can at least know what they have. So if a guy gets slugged, you can see, oh, he's got Unbreakable. I don't have to pick him up. He's got, we'll make it, I'll let this guy go on hook. Or, you know, this guy's Deliverance. We don't need to go and hook this guy. There's so much good information you can get by just simply knowing your teammates' builds in game, and now you're going to get that. So that's just a W. I don't know. That's it. End of the discussion. It's just a W. That should have been in the game since the start. Mobile has had it. A lot of other games in the categories have had it. So this is just a W. That's just objectively a good thing. There's no bad way to put that. The one thing that I don't like about this is it's showing the killer's power in that menu. I don't think they should go through with that. Because, you know, some killers doesn't matter. If it's a Blight, you're going to know it's a Blight within 10 seconds of the match starting. Who cares? But if it's like, you know, a killer like, you know, Wraith or Ghostface or Myers or someone like that, part of the kit of that killer is you not knowing what the killer is. So that first hit that you get is way easier than most other killers. If you're aware that the killer is a Wraith because you see the little bell icon below like all of your teammates' perks, that's going to make you hyper aware for the, you know, the snarling sound, for the like you're just going to be paying attention more for a Wraith. So that gives you kind of an unnecessary advantage against stealth killers, and it makes no sense to do that. So that little section of that screen needs to be chopped off. You don't need to see the killer. You'll find out pretty quickly. You'll hear a bell. You'll hear Myers, you know, tearing up. You'll see Ghostface expose somebody. You'll learn pretty quickly what it is, but let them get that first hit. Let them benefit from the thing that stealth at the beginning of the match actually gives them. There's no reason to nerf any stealth killers because 0 of the stealth killers are overpowered. So there's just no reason to touch that. Chop that off, and we have an absolutely perfect thing to add to the game. So overall, though, pretty much all W's, minus the killer visible thing. That needs to be changed. But other than that, pretty much everything listed here is a very good change. Again, we're in that type of thing where they haven't done any of this yet. They're just talking about adding these things. So we can't celebrate yet. This might take 6 months. It might take 4 years. We don't know how long it's going to be. So I have been jaded in the past when they say they're doing something. They say they're doing something. Swamp rework, still coming. It's been like 4 years. It's still coming. But my point is, let's be excited when it actually hits PTB and it's actually being added to the game. I'm happy to see them discuss it, but I'm also tempering my expectations because sometimes it takes them a very long time to actually commit and add these things to the game. But overall, though, in terms of what they said they were going to do, I can't find a single thing to complain about other than the visible killer. It's all really good stuff, and I'm happy to see it. So that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.